Hey everyone, it's Tisha. So I want to talk about the USA Constitution, our government. I look at the Declaration of Independence as the chart that seems to hold the energy of we the people, and the USA Constitution seems to hold the energy of our government. And what I've discovered this last year is that our Constitution was broken for the first time in 1798. In fact, they broke it by doing the Sedition and Alien Act. And then what I discovered in my research was, in fact, it has been broken nearly every single time by every president. Um, Now, I don't know that they did it intentionally, but it did happen. And sadly, nobody's ever been held accountable for that. So what I discovered is that since then, they've been drawing what we call the shadow energy side, or the dark side of the energy of where the planets are in the zodiacs. So I want to go through, they're getting ready to have another solar return birthday on September the 17th. As you know, I tracked last year, we had a lunar eclipse happen on their birthday. And Niobe played into that. She was conjunct the sun. And Niobe actually has a 5-year cycle. So we're not done with Niobe. Niobe's going to play out for the next 5 years. In fact, she will end her journey, and this is crazy, but she will end her journey on July 4th, 2029. So she's going to end her journey in our government chart on our birthday of our declaration. I mean, you just can't make this up. And so it's going to be profound. But I'm not going to dive deep into all of that I found looking at the next 5 years. What I want to talk about right now is the USA Constitution's new solar return chart that's coming next week because this is massive changes. Um, and again, I just want to remind you that it's not it doesn't appear by the astrology, and knowing that they're using the shadow side, it's not going to be good. We have another year of trauma and confrontation and heartache and, you know, problems coming. So, okay, let's start with the first house. It now is Libra, and we have Mars in the first house. So what I discovered with Mars in Libra in the first house, it will make irritability, and there will be a lot of risk of conflict and an overestimation of its forces. So this is really dangerous. This because they're using the shadow side, this is really dangerous for us and for the world, really. So the AC in Libra is more apt to seduce others. Such influences want to break harmony, balance, and peace. It could bring new agreements, contracts, and associations. It could bring divorce. It could bring more suppression, especially of women, because Venus rules Libra and Mars is there. Mars actually owns the first house with Aries. So Mars is going to have significant power over Venus, even though she's at 27 degrees Leo and Mars is at 26 degrees Libra. There's going, and that is a square. So there's going to be this massive confrontation, um, I believe, between our government and women specifically. So there's going to be more suppression against women done during this year. Um, Now, in our natal chart, Aquarius and Libra in the solar return can bring forward a tendency to expand. But with Pluto retrograde, it could bring forward a complete destruction of how things operated into something new, unique, different that will have ties with um, our current government. It, it's about beliefs, morals, ethics, and systems baked around an illusion. And with Saturn retrograde and the North Node in Pisces in the sixth house, it could actually bring forward more confinement in our daily lives. There could also be a drastic increase in confining people in prisons. There could also be a larger push for discipline, you know, bowing down to the authority, the king. Um, so that is not looking real good. And I'm so sorry. But I want to prepare you because if you're prepared, you know, you can, if you understand what could potentially come our way, you'll be able to prepare. So the second house is Scorpio. And in our natal chart, Scorpio is actually in the 10th house. So I forecast that there could probably be a big financial event that's going to occur. Um, and it will affect our earnings, and our social situation. The leaders will become more profitable from their activities as well. There will be a lot of secrets kept about government's financial status, and Mars being in the first house will provide a struggle in leaders acquiring what they want because Mars is in detriment. So that is one saving grace that we do have. And Pluto retrograde in the fifth house will want more control by our leaders over what gives us joy. And so we, the people, so we may lose more of what gives us joy and pleasure. We must protect our children even more so now as they are in greater danger with this setup of the solar return chart, especially protect them from our government. Our government will put down more illusions over relationships, contracts, equality, share and hide or protect who our hidden enemies truly are. There's a huge wound that's also going to be exposed about our government that we're going to have to heal. So the third house is Sagittarius, and asteroid Niobe is there. So the government will probably use communications to attempt to change our mindset of our social activities, our interests, our communications, neighbors, groups, friends, technology, social media, hopes and dreams of the future. And they will sell it to us as a positive and good for the future. And we have to keep in mind it isn't. They will attempt to expand their strength and willpower over us, we the people. We must be very careful not to allow them to change us into what they want. They will use their powers through deceptive emotional communications to get us to surrender to their desires. Be very alert as they may use men, experts, and famous people against us under this illusion. It is critical that we all shatter our own egos about who our government has become since this document was signed by our founding fathers. No matter who the leaders are, do your research to seek the truth. And then we've got the fourth house, which is Capricorn. And this is where I think they're going to, because the IC is there as well, this is where I think they're really going to show their strength and power um, over us. This could also bring more housing problems um, because it is the house of home. Um, we can expect larger numbers of people to be exiled, I'm sorry to say. Um, Especially family members. There will also be more information hidden about our foundation, our roots. There will be more restrictions placed upon children and women So be very careful, as Taurus is in the natal chart of this house. So they will not be willing to negotiate or budge. In fact, in the natal chart, Venus is in the 8th house. So they will exert major power and control over all women. We may even see this administration firing his women cabinet members, worse, firing all women in any power. The 5th house, we have Aquarius and Pluto retrograde. And so I think they're going to exert power and expansion over what gives us joy, our creativity, our fertility, even our self-expression. So we have to be really careful. They're not going to be able to, again, this is a year of a lot of illusions that are going to happen. And so we have to be really careful that we don't fall for their transformation um, tricks here. Since Pluto is in retrograde in Aquarius, they're going to rev it up. They'll probably use AI tremendously against us, right? Because Aquarius generally, or Aquarius owns the 11th house. And the 11th house is about internet and social media. And Pluto retrograde there does have an indication that they are going to step this game up of delusions and illusions against us. The propaganda, the gaslighting, it's going to get worse. The 6th house is Pisces. The North Node and Saturn retrograde are here. And so we can expect many more lies about our health, our daily income. You can expect disruptions of irregularities in your earnings. Expect more disruptions in services provided. Expect issues with food, work, organizations. We also often see farm animals here. So there's going to be this whole illusion and delusion happening with our farms. And you have to be even more vigilant and more careful with your food, with where you're getting how it's being processed. So the 7th house is Aries, and we have Neptune retrograde, and we have Chiron there, and she's also retrograde. Now, Neptune in the 7th has a tendency to put down deceit, betray others, especially relationships that are built around a common ideal. Deception on communications, education, educational systems, communities, and neighbors. The 8th house, being Taurus, this forces their power and control over families. Um, so we have to be even more vigilant. Over protecting our families, our roots, our foundations, not giving our power away to them. Sell or loss of properties could also be a big theme. So again, we have to be, because of Scorpio being in the 2nd house, you have to be really careful with what kind of documents you're signing, especially with Neptune in the 7th house. Be really, really careful with anything you sign with the government or their partners. Um, I also see where this could be problems with assets, our debts. Now, when I'm saying our debts, I'm talking about governmental debts, okay? Which means our investments as well, and how they handle our money. There could be a lot of illusions, delusions put down. And the thing is, with Taurus being the 8th house, they are going to be stubborn as a bull. They're going to dig their feet in and refuse to budge or move. Um, so the 9th house is Gemini, and we have Uranus retrograde here. So I think they're going to be creating a lot more of the chaos, especially far away. So be really careful if you travel far away. Now, Gemini is also trickster energy, so we have to be really careful about standing in our own power of our morals, our ethics, and our beliefs. Again, You really have got to do everything to shatter your belief system of everything you've been taught your entire life by everyone. So you need to keep an open mind and shatter that anything and everything could be lies that you've been told. And you have to be vigilant about doing your own research and finding the truth. So Uranus in retrograde in Gemini often is asking us to reassess our communications and our mindset. Um, again, this is our morals, our ethics, our beliefs. However, the shadow side of this and what they're going to be using will bring more restrictions and rules of our communications and attempts at making us submit to their morals, ethics, and beliefs. It is vitally important for us to shatter our own egos so that we can better critical think and get out of this cognitive dissonance that they put us in. Um, it's time for us to break free from their outdated um, belief system and the way that they have brainwashed us to believe, right? It's time we change our communication patterns as well. With Mercury in the 12th house, we must bring an end to these abuses that have been done upon us. The 10th house, which is about leaders and leadership, we have the MC and Jupiter here in Cancer. So Jupiter in Cancer would normally bring good luck and fortune to our leaders. But again, in the shadow side, expect those in power to greatly abuse their powers excessively. And the AC in Cancer, expect a greater um, attack upon our legal community and us. Expect financial losses, troubles with our, in your jobs, in your careers, troubles with our allies and enemies, but no serious damage. Um, with the MC to the moon of a semi-sextile, expect to see more scandals of our leaders tied to group memberships. Our leaders may come after women's rights even more aggressively. Expect bigger domestic disturbances. So in the 11th house, we have the moon and Venus in Leo. And the moon in Leo will bring about emotional attacks of group memberships on social media, the internet, our hopes and dreams. Expect everything to be driven by demand for recognition. Expect greater arrogance with less empathy. Expect dominance to increase, stubbornness and inflexibility will also grow. Expect dramatic reactions and emotional outbursts. With Venus in Leo normally bringing generosity, warmth, and positive social connections, but in shadow, it could bring the need for constant validation, possessiveness, overly dramatic in social situations, attacking women excessively. And then excuse me, the 12th house, we have the South Node, the Sun, and Mercury, and in Virgo. And so the South Node will bring things to an end. It'll bring certain things to an end. However, realizing they're going to attempt to flip the script and push that on us. And so remember, the 12th house is about confined places. And so they could actually expand on that. It will eventually backfire on them, but know that that's how they're going to use the shadow side. The sun could bring to desire of I'm trying the sun could bring about a desire of retreat. This could indicate an ending to the America we've only known, a complete destruction of all that is. This could also bring more loss, misfortune, and more may be hidden from us, possibly excessive expansion of prisons and confinements, of confined spaces. Um, and so, again, we have the North Node um, in Pisces, so they're going to throw down all these illusions and delusions, um, even in the South Node. So we just have to be really, really careful. This chart definitely shows another year of struggles, frustrations, anger, um, losing more of what we value. Um, so, I know a lot of psychic mediums and astrologers out there are saying that Trump will be gone by the end of the year. And I just want to remind you, JD Vance is worse. And this chart actually, with the dark energy that I know he's going to pull, because he already is. And so if he does become president, it's going to become even worse here in America. We could be confined within America, um, as well as confined within sections. We could get confined into our communities, our neighborhoods, with Niobe there in the third house, because the dark side of Niobe is where they want to expand their ego and not shatter it. They want to be more arrogant and more in power and more control. So we have to be really careful. Um, there's a lot of indication here that this next year is going to be worse than what we're going through right now. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but again, in my research, I discovered they broke the Constitution a long time ago, and we've never, since 1798, we've never held any president accountable. Remember, we the people have failed, and we are still failing. Here we are, 9 months into Trump's presidency, his second term, and we are still failing, because majority of the population who is against him needs to stand up together in solidarity against him, and it's not happening. I'm hoping that after this September 17th new solar return, it does. Now, some good news. Our Declaration of Independence solar return chart that started on July 4th is stronger than their chart right here that starts on the 17th. It is not stronger than the one they are currently under. And I believe that is why we've not seen this massive protest happening like every day, right, of majority of the people. And I'm not talking about like 3 or 5% of the population. I'm talking like we need 3/4 of the population out on the streets. That or a national strike. Um, so I'm hoping after September 17th, then everyone starts to feel that energy because our chart is stronger than theirs. Um, but we're just going to have to see how it plays out. So I'm going to do another chart on Niobe to show you what's getting ready to happen with Niobe on October 7th. But that'll be another video, so stay tuned. I love you guys. Thank you, and I will make more videos as things are winding down for me for the summer. Um, I've just been so swamped this summer, and I do apologize. And I've really tried to stay away from the politics because it's just so intense right now. I want to share so much more with you guys, but I also have to be very careful because every time I upload a video, I'm getting dinged by YouTube. When obviously I'm telling truth in what I've been finding over the last year, because even my September 17th videos that I did, all but one got copyright striked. But then it said it's not really a copyright strike, it's more of a community. This is what the note section says, that it's more of a community strike, but yet they took my videos down. And I've not put them back up because I've just been too busy, and I've been upset about them doing that. So I think it's because I'm telling too much truth. Um, I have so much to share, and right now I still don't have the time to explain everything. Um, I will get there, I promise. Hang in there. You know, it's gonna we're gonna make it through this, you guys. And we will win. But we have to also stand together in numbers, and fight for what we value, what we believe with our morals and ethics. We have to do it in nonviolence. I personally think a national strike is the way to go, where everyone just stays home, doesn't buy anything, doesn't pay any bills, and doesn't go to work, because that would shut down corporate America and the government fast. Um, but if the government shuts down, we should all shut down too. That's just my suggestion. Because we can turn the tide on this. We have the power. Remember that. It's us who has the power. We need to take our power back that we gave to them and they abused. Love you guys. Bye.